Now we're on to everybody's favorite part, word problems. So these are just some application problems with quadratic equations. And the first one is talking about the height of an object, height being given by h, t seconds, so that's the variable, so many seconds after being dropped. And here's the equation for this. Now the question says, when will the ball be 100 feet above the ground? Now this right here means that they want h to equal 100. They want the height to be 100, so it means that we have the equation 100 equals negative 16 t squared plus 48t plus 260. Now, you kind of know how I feel about these things. I like to have my lead coefficient to be positive. So I'm actually going to move all of this stuff to the left side. So that becomes a positive 16t squared minus 48t. This becomes a negative 260. So it makes that a negative 160 when I combine those guys. And now I just need to solve this quadratic equation. Now you could go straight to quadratic formula, but I would not choose that. Instead, recognize that everything has a common factor of 16. If you factor that out, you have t squared minus 3t minus 10 is equal to 0. When I finish factoring this, so that's t minus 5 times t plus 2, you see that I've got everything factored, so I should be able to find my solutions. 16 cannot give you a solution because it doesn't have a variable. This guy tells you that t must equal 5, or t must equal negative 2. But you got to pay close attention here. The question is saying, when will the ball be 100 feet above the ground? T is measuring time. So this guy doesn't make any sense, because we can't have negative time in the problem that we're talking about. So the only thing that makes sense for us here is this guy. So if t equals 5, the appropriate response to this question is the ball will be 100 feet above the ground. The ball will be 100 feet above the ground in 5 seconds. You definitely are not going to say the ball is going to be above the ground in negative 2 seconds. Doesn't make any sense. So make sure that you do answer questions. Answer the question that's being asked. Now, the next word problem deals with right triangles. And I know there's something that you remember about right triangles, and that's the Pythagorean Theorem. So sometimes we just, draw a picture. Just give us an idea about what we're looking at. So here's some right triangle. It doesn't have to be pretty, unless, of course, you're OCD, and then, well, you'll never know how many videos I had to go through for this one. So it says one leg of a right triangle is 2 feet less than the other leg. So if this guy is one leg, the other one is 2 feet less than that, so that means it's 2 feet shorter, so x minus 2. And the hypotenuse is 13 feet long. Well, remember, the Pythagorean Theorem states that the sum of the squares of the legs is equal to the hypotenuse squared. So that means x squared plus x minus 2 quantity squared equals 13 squared. So you have an equation. You just have to solve this. So when you have x squared, of course, that's just x squared. This is the piece that messes with people, because it multiplies to give you x squared minus 4x plus 4. And then, of course, you get 169 on the right side. A lot of people forget about this minus 4x. So, number one, shame on you. Number two, go back and practice your special products. If I take this 169 and move it over to the left, so it's going to give me a negative 169. Let's see what happens here. That gives me 2x squared minus 4x minus 165 is equal to 0. Well, I sure hope this factors. If not, we're going to be in big trouble. Well, if it does factor, we at least have this going for us, that the 2x squared has to be 2x times x. Now, when I think about the factors for 165, let's see. So 165 can be 1 and 165. It can also be 3 and 55. It can be 5 and 33. And it can be 11 times 15. So, unfortunately, this guy is not going to, it's not going to factor for us, I don't think, which is a real shame. So I guess we need to find some other way for solving this. Well, we could use the quadratic formula, or we can use our graphing calculators. So let's look at the graphing calculator and see what it can do to help us find the solution. So here we have the graphing calculator, and one of the things I want you guys to see is this. If you press the math menu, if you press up from this first option, you see this thing that says solver. And this is really the easy way to solve quadratic equations, especially when they're going to be nasty like this. So all we need to do is, of course, clear out whatever equation was in there from before and type in what you see. So that's 2x squared minus 4x minus 165. Now, I don't know why it says that, so we're just going to pretend it wasn't there. If I press x equals 0, now that's not the solution, but I can have the calculator solve this by pressing alpha, enter. And when I do that, it's going to give me the closest solution to 0. Alright, so this stuff didn't work out, and the calculator is telling me that x is approximately equal to negative 8.138, and of course we're measuring here in feet. To get the other solution, I expect it to be more on the positive side, at least something that I can use. So let's type in 10 and see what happens. If I press 10, and then solve close to 10, oh hey, what do you know? I get that x is approximately 10.138 feet. Now we know here this isn't going to make any sense. Okay? So we're not going to have negative length. So the question here says round your answer to the nearest tenth. So how long are the legs? If I round to the nearest tenth, this should be 10.1. So it means this guy here is going to be 10.1 10.1 feet, and this guy's going to be 2 feet less than that, so that's about 8.1 feet when I round. I guess, again, I guess I made another mistake here because I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes that happens, and I know you guys know what that's like. When it said round your answers to the nearest tenth, that should have clued us in that these were not going to be nice answers. And as we got down here and we started working this, at least when I was working this, I thought, I know this guy can break down, but it's just not going to give me anything that works. But you saw with the graphing calculator, you can find the solutions. You could even graph this to see some of the solutions as well. But rounding the answer to the nearest tenth should have told us these are not going to be pretty, probably not going to come from some of the factors. And we see that, yeah, it didn't work out. 10.1 feet and 8.1 feet. And if you were to check all of this, if I quit out of this and if I tried 10.1 squared plus 8.1 squared, that's 167.62, so it's not exactly what 13 squared equals, but it's close enough. You understand that when we had 10.1, we rounded that from 10.138. So we're rounding down, so our estimate should have been off.